We're thrilled to be here today with everyone in the great state of Ohio. I'm Dean Cooper, account manager for a lot of you. I'm thrilled to say that we have Brielle Maynor with us today from Midpointe Library System, along with Maria Laudy, your sales engineer at Innovative. The focus of this session is Vega Discover, and we get to hear primarily from Brielle about Midpoint's experience with Vega Discover and feedback from their patrons. First, though, I'm going to provide a quick overview of Vega Discover for you all. Vega Discover was the first module in our new library experience platform. The corporate overview session focuses a lot on the engagement suite. Those modules highlighted in yellow here. But for today, we're going to focus on Discover. If you'd like more information about the other modules, please reach out to Mike Carney or I, and we'll gladly schedule a time for that. The one module that I will talk about today, besides just Discover, is the Connect. This is the layer that binds your ILS to Vega. You're still cataloging in Sierra or Polaris using MARC records. However, at the Connect layer, our context engine is evolving those records into linked data using BibFrame module. So everything above the Connect level is using BibFrame. This is an extensible language that can do a tremendous amount more when we're performing searches. It allows us to make connections that can be made using MARC records. So if you're searching for John Grisham, for example, Vega won't just return a keyword search for John and Grisham, it'll return the person John Grisham and people that he's interacted with in his life. A good example of this is that we're all used to using is the sidebar on Google. Typically, if you do a search, you'll get results. My example here using a common browser was to do a search for the Midnight Library. The keyword results you see are shown on the main part of the screen. However, the linked data, or not linked data, but the extensible connections made through the language of the internet provides that right sidebar and all the additional information, what the weather is in a certain location, or in this case, what libraries have those books as well. Now, don't get me wrong here. I don't want you to think just by using Vega, your catalog will show up in Google. That's not the point here. I'm just trying to show how BibFrame can make a difference, and you're able to get a lot more powerful results than just the keyword searches. Maybe this is just one of the reasons that Vega has already had such great acceptance in the Midwest. You'll see here a number of libraries that are using Vega, whether they're a development partner or getting it through general availability. You'll notice that there's large libraries, small libraries, standalone, as well as consortia. They all have different attractions to Vega. Maybe it's the format rollups, maybe it's just the plain ease of use, or maybe it's the showcases. But now let's switch gears and hear from Brielle about Midpoint's reasons for choosing Vega Discover and what it's been like being part of the development partner program. Brielle?
Thanks for having me today. Midpoint Library System is in Butler County, Ohio, in the southwest part of the state. We cover, a stretch kind of down I-75. And we were first approached about what became Vega Discover about 2.5 years ago, and we're intrigued right off the bat by the rollups, and I'm sure all of you have noted that as well. And then in June of 2020, when lots of other things were going on for all of us, Innovative came back around to us to ask us if we'd like to be development partners. And we were intrigued by the possibility of, really being in kind of on the ground floor of this important tool for our patrons and our staff, and signed up. So we got going in June of 2020. Got a core group of staff together to start doing different kinds of testing and poking at things and making suggestions and giving feedback. And then at the end of October, had our soft launch, and then earlier this year, officially went live with Vega. So for that whole stretch of time, we've been part of regular meetings, with the development partner group, with all the other libraries, and being able to exchange information and give feedback and learn from them. And then, but also regular meetings that it's just our team and the innovative team, giving feedback, answering questions, digging into things, bringing feedback to them, and regular emails going back and forth, about this and that, tweak and adjustment and things of that nature. And we've also been able to participate in some different usability study type things. I was able to be part of a kind of a one-on-one session with a developer around showcases. Just last week, the team at Innovative asked us about having some of our patrons participate in a study, and they particularly were asking for at least one participant who was over the age of 55. So, still working through things and trying to make sure that it's a really solid product moving forward. So, great experience there. And it's been instructive to see the Agile methodology up close. That was new for me, at least, to see those development sprints of 2 weeks and see, what that meant for turning things around and making the improvements we asked for. Showcases have kind of been my pet interest, especially throughout this whole process, and regularly during the early meetings, I would say, so tell me where we are with showcases again. In my mind, it's kind of the next generation of your in-house displays, book lists, pathfinders. Instead of having a little acrylic stand on the counter with paper book lists of things, it's a way to build them right into the discovery layer so that patrons can, do their search, discover those associated titles that they may or may not have been able to find through their own searching, and then kind of jump across and discover more resources that way. It's a part of the discovery layer right now, but I know that the plan is to be able to, feature them, on more of the landing page of Vega, and then through other communication channels for the library. And the folks at Innovative have learned I'm not the one to speak to the ins and outs of the tech, so I'm going to ask Maria to jump in here and explain just how the magic happens.
To take a look at showcases, let's start with Brielle's library, Midpointe Library System. On their website, they've got a link to search the catalog, and when we search the catalog, it opens up their Vega search box. Let's do a search that will really show off what the showcases look like. And for that, let's do a search on a popular title right now, The Binding. When the patron searches for The Binding, those of you who haven't seen Vega before, there is quite a bit of information to show on the screen, but since we're going to focus just on the showcases, I'd like to go directly there. We see The Binding, a novel, and one of the things you'll hear me talk about in just a second is the roll-ups. We're going to skip over that quickly and go straight into The Binding, a novel. Here's what Brielle was talking about with the showcases. As you scroll down and look at all the information that comes with Vega, this is the information that gets generated automatically. Dean talked about converting MARC records over to BibFrame. Part of that conversion involves creating these related resource cards automatically, but then there's something different. Recent books about books. That is a librarian created showcase. And if you wanted to highlight, we can see that all of these books are about books, but if the user wants to see all of those resources, they can go to that showcase and see all the recent books about books. It's called a library created showcase. And to show you the magic behind that, of how it gets created, I'm switching over to my demo system. And to show you the magic of how it gets created, I've switched over to our demo system at Innovative. You can see in the top right corner that I'm logged in as a reference librarian. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a number of options, including bookmarks, save searches, and showcases. Showcases are staff created, so patrons won't see this link down at the bottom of their screen. Only the staff will see that link. And to show you how the showcases get created, let's go with a back to school example. I'm going to do Macduff Goes to School, and that happens to be one that was added to a showcase. we can see there was added a showcase because when we look at the record for McDuff Goes to School, down in those related resources that I just said get created automatically, the next card is Beating Back to School Blues. And you can see it was a showcase that was created by a reference librarian. If we wanted to see other titles that are on this back to school list, we can, as a staff person, go to the showcases at the bottom of the screen. And this showcases tab will show you all the showcases that were created by you. You can see it says created by me, 10, or all the showcases that were created by all the staff at the library. And in a multi-branch system, this would be all the staff at all of the branches. You can also see who created those showcases. So it might be a good idea to set some sort of naming standard in place at your library, just like catalogers do. If you want to use your initials or the name of the person, you can see costume ideas were created by Amy, or there are some here that say unknown, or some that say library staff, or some that say Ash, or some that say library staff, or even Marion the librarian. Whoever creates that showcase should indicate who they are, and you should come up with your own naming scheme. But let's come back to that one about back to school. You can see that there are 6 titles in the back to school showcase. At any point as a staff person, if you want to get rid of one that's on there, you can, or you can take the showcase and email it off to your patrons. Or if you have teachers who are helping children and students with projects, you can email off those citations or export them off. If you want to get rid of them from the showcase, then you simply take that showcase and select anyone that you don't want to keep on there anymore, and you'll see an option up in the top right corner to remove those to the list. Okay, but how do we add them to the list? So we saw the example of McDuff Goes Back to School. What if we wanted to add Biscuit's New Trick to that showcase? Easy enough. You come up to the top right corner, save it for later. And if you did not already have the showcase created, you could create a new showcase simply by creating a new list. We've already have the Back to School Blues created, so it gets added to the Back to School Blues showcase. Now, if you come back down to the bottom of the screen, we'll see in those Back to School showcases here, Beating Back to School Blues, there are now 7 titles, and there's Biscuit's New Trick. I hope that's given you an idea of how those showcases are created. Our very next step in development is to now take those showcases and be able to put them somewhere else, whether it's on your library's main website or in emails that you send off to patrons. That's a quick look at how showcases are created in Vega.
So I think I mentioned one of the first things that really caught our attention were the use of roll-ups, and that has really been the game changer that we thought it probably would when we first saw it. Instead of scrolling up and down and back and forth to track down which format of which title the library holds, to see everything laid out across the screen, the different formats, it's really made a difference for our staff and the patrons that we serve. It's simplified everything, laid it all out, and I think too, folks are, they think, oh, I'll probably just walk out of here with a book, and then they say, oh no, there it is, I can tell they have the audiobook right there, or I could even download it, I don't have to carry something out of here. So that's been a really handy thing. It's been interesting to see that come together, and making sure that the right thing rolls up with the other right things has been kind of a delicate dance, but that's part of the adventure of being in on the development part of this.
Maybe we could hand it over to Maria, and she could provide us a couple search examples that show the roll-ups. Maria?
Sure, I'm happy to do so. In looking at roll-ups, let's go back to Midpoint again. And on the Midpoint main search screen, I'm going to go with a popular title that many of you probably have checked out at your libraries, the Midnight Library. At Midpoint, they have quite a few different formats of the Midnight Library, and we see them all represented here in what we call roll-ups. You might think of them as groupings, format groupings. Some people say Ferber, but what we're doing is bringing together multiple formats onto one display. Are we bringing over all of the formats? No. And why not? Because these are tied together based on the type of material and the representation of the work. If Midnight Library is such a great success in print form and it's made into a movie next year starring one of your favorite actors, then that would not be something that should roll in with the rest of the formats. And we can go into greater detail during the Q&A session if you like, but you do have some control over which formats roll together. As Brielle commented, sometimes it can be a little tricky, and that's what we're here for, that if you noticed things that don't look exactly right, talk to us or talk with one of the development partners like Brielle at Midpoint. But you'll notice also here in the rolling up of the different formats, one in particular is highlighted, and that's the large print, because the large print copy is available. Normally, of course, if the book were available, that particular tab would be highlighted since it's first on the left-hand side of the screen. But because large print is the one that's available, that's the one that gets highlighted. Also, if you haven't heard before in other demonstrations, over on the right-hand side, there is one prominent place hold button. That is by design, that we want to make Vega easy for patrons to use. They shouldn't have to figure out how to use your catalog. So one place hold button, that place hold button will place a hold on the first available copy of the most recent edition. What if the patron really wants that audiobook that's checked out? No problem. All he or she needs to do is select that audiobook, and then when he or she places the hold, it'll be placed on that particular format. Okay, all the different formats here we see together, they look great. Brielle also talked about checking out the ebook. I don't have a patron card at Midpoint, but I do have one at our local demo site. So for that, I've switched over to our demo site, and you'll see up in the top right corner, I'm logged in as Delilah Demo. And with Delilah, she's probably interested in something a little bit different. So she's going to look at reading Lean In for Women Work in the Will to Lead. And notice in our demo environment, we have two copies, both the audio book and the ebook. The ebook is available from Overdrive, and the patron, in this case Delilah, can go ahead and click Get It. When she does so, she'll get the option to select which is her preferred format. She might choose Kindle or she might choose Overdrive Read, and depending on what kind of device she's on, she'll immediately be able to read and access this material. I'm on a laptop, so I could read it now by clicking on Read Now. If she's on a smaller device, tablet device, she'd be able to then access that material and read it right away. So that's a little bit about how the rollups work within Vega, and we hope you'll be excited about seeing that and trying that out on your own. And another piece that we'd like to talk about, Brielle, is how about the Library of Things? We keep hearing a lot about Library of Things lately. Some libraries tell us they check out fishing poles. Some libraries tell us they check out Wi-Fi devices, you name it. What's the experience like at Midpoint? What kinds of things are in your Library of Things?
Sure. So I know rollups are a way to address, the more traditional formats and collections. Library of Things for many of us is, very non-traditional. We circulate everything from a model of the brain to what the Sprout backpacks, a giant Jenga, a ladder ball, badminton set, various things like that. And that was a good example of being able to be in on the development side, and because as things were first coming together with Vega, and we were first, giving our tweaks, we discovered that the indexing for those wasn't working quite right, and so we were able to email back and forth, discuss in our meetings, and within, a few days to a week, everything was working out properly, and our patrons were able to find and place holds on those items just like anything else that we had for them. So it's been very helpful, and within our organization, we're talking through the workflow of taking advantage of this 856 field to bring in actual photos of the items, so patrons can really see what it is that they're placing holds on, and plan how they're going to use it when they get it.
That's great. You actually kind of led right into the next thing I wanted to talk about. So thank you. About those pesky 856 tags. Brielle, do you mind sharing with us a story you shared before we began about what's your take on the 856 and how to edit them?
Oh, so when we were first talking about, getting the everything organized, and I was saying, oh, okay, now that we're talking about this, and now I understand the conversations that have kind of washed over me about just what those fields are and what we can do with them. Okay, I'm going to call some other folks on staff, and we're going to figure out how we're going to take advantage of this. So
exactly.
Yeah, so the development partner learning continues even through getting this presentation ready.
And don't worry, folks, in just a moment, I'm going to be showing you how to do those 856 tags. So let's take a look at some examples of how they've been set up in our demo environment, and then I'll show you a sneak peek on where to get more information for those catalogers on the call who would like to know exactly how to input it so that it will display correctly. In talking about the library of things, whatever things your library has, you can really enhance the patron experience by adding photos of those objects. And as Brielle pointed out, it's something that they haven't done quite yet at Midpoint. So I'd like to start there because we can see the before and after. Here's one of the examples she gave us with badminton set. You'll see there's a badminton net set, and then there are other titles related to badminton, but it shows just a blank gray silhouette. And if we were to select the particular title, we see she put it under a category of leisure kit, which is fine. Whatever material types you want to use or formats that you want to use at your libraries is fine. How do we do it? Let's first take a look at the after. And in order to look at the after, I've switched over to my demo environment. Let's take a look at the after. Here's our demo environment for sales. We've done fishing pole. And in fishing pole, you can see right away, there's a beautiful photo of a fishing pole. Now we've put it in a different category. So at your library, you can use whatever formats or material types you want, but you'll notice we put it under format of room equipment. And when the user looks at a particular record, this is what they'll see, depending on how much you've cataloged, of course. Here at Innovative, we tend to do minimal cataloging. So you'll see that there's a link to multimedia with a cover image. If we wanted to look at that cover image, you probably can't see it on your screen, but down at the very bottom of my browser, it's pointing to wherever that image is stored. So you need to have a place where you're going to store your images, either locally or on some network drive. And also, by the way, this fishing pole is part of our library of things in our demo environment. And you can see other things that appear here, like tackle box or a laptop computer, or even a meeting room with a nice photo of what a meeting room looks like, or a lending laptop. So back to how does it get created? We saw the before, we saw the after. What's the in between? You will find in this recording, but you can also ask us about it in the Q&A session, that there is a link to documentation, and you can see the link here on my browser, but it's telling you how to create those custom book covers. You'll need that 856 tag, and you'll also need to have a specific subfield here. It's a subfield 3 with the words cover image. It is case insensitive. But then in that first position, you'll see further down below in the 856 tag, choose a first indicator of 4. That's going to be important. The second indicator is not so important, 0, 1, or 2. But the one that is also important is that subfield 3 with the words cover image. And then to take a quick peek at both Polaris and Sierra, I do have Polaris Leap up. And if you're not using Polaris Leap, please let Dean know. We'd be happy to set up a demo for you on that, but that's a whole other topic. Let's do fishing pole. And when we look at fishing pole, we see the results. Here it is. We open that up. And as we look at that bibliographic record, I warned you we do very minimal cataloging in our sales demo, but we do see down below that link to the cover image. And if we want to get to the MARC record right from Leap, we can edit it. I'm not going to edit it right now in this demo, But you'll see within LEAP, we've got the 856 with that first position 4, second position 0, and that's subfield 3. Then, of course, you'll need your subfield U. Catalogers already know that, with a link to wherever that image is stored. In Sierra, very similar. We switch over to Sierra, and instead of a fishing pole, we're looking at a Wi-Fi hotspot. Same kind of technique involved in that 856. First position 4, second position 0. That's subfield 3, very important, and your subfield U to wherever the image is actually located on your network drive or elsewhere on the internet. We look forward to hearing what kinds of library of things you all are creating. Please share with us in the Q&A session.
Thanks for that, Maria. Brielle, how about commenting a little bit about the most recent addition that we've had with the Syndex, with the unique Syndex Unbound API?
Yes, so our patrons have definitely noticed those enriched records, and you know, patrons and staff appreciate being able to more seamlessly, you know, pick up on the other titles in the series, other works by the author, you know, and just they get a whole different view of what's available, and you know, they really appreciate having that.
Is there anything in particular that the reference folks have commented on? I know on screen right now we have adjusting the AR and Lexile reading levels. Is there anything, you called out a couple of items just now, but anything in particular that folks have said they really appreciate?
You know, a lot of it comes back to series. That's, you know, a lot of what you hear is what am I supposed to read next in this series? Well, here you go. But yes, as you know, we're bringing programming back, and more families are coming in and lengthening their visits as we're going back into the schools to do outreach, to be able to work with the students and teachers and parents on, you know, gathering things by reading level is more and more useful as things get more back to you know, the next normal.
Exactly, and you're queuing me right up again. Thank you so much, because we do want to look at those series, and I have a couple of series examples in particular that folks have told us they really appreciate. So let's take a look at those. The Syndex information is really fun to talk about and so exciting for libraries. They always get excited whenever Dean and I show off what's included with Syndex Unbound. And by the way, Syndex Unbound does come with Vega Discover. Back to Midpoint. On Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, you'll see that indeed Midpoint has multiple copies with multiple formats, but what we're looking at is that Syndex information. And you'll also notice, we've talked about this before, the related information is automatically generated and includes any library created showcases. The Details tab is where the Syndex Unbound comes into play. And when your users look at the details, they'll see all kinds of enriched content coming from Syndex Unbound, as well as you, the library, having a choice as to which pieces you want to turn on. And I'll get to that in just a second. With Harry Potter, we'll see more in this series. We also see a link to, as we mouse over, we see each of the titles described and the ratings and the check availability, but we also see a link to view full series. So you will get a chance to see that. If your library perhaps doesn't own one of the titles in that series, it'll be grayed out with a silhouette, and it'll show clearly that your library doesn't have that. The other pieces of information here, you might also like similar series. If our patron liked Harry Potter, perhaps they might like The Heroes of Olympus. Similar authors, they might like Rick Riordan or J.R.R. Tolkien. Professional reviews, book profile, reading level, awards about the author. All of this wealth of information. And back to what Brielle was talking about with the AR levels, you can browse by reading level, And whether this is a parent helping a child or a teacher helping students or a reference librarian helping, what happens here is you can adjust that interest level. Maybe we're looking for an interest level that's higher or lower. You can adjust that interest level, search for materials in your collection in that interest level, and all of a sudden a whole different world of titles pops up for users to explore. Also can be adjusted not just by AR level, but maybe if you want to adjust by Lexile, as we were just talking about. Or over on the right-hand side, if you want to narrow it down by Lexile code or subjects. And then we're seeing other titles in that range. Very powerful tool. I'm also going to take a look at something a little bit different because I said earlier that these different sections that come from Syndex can be turned off. There's one in particular that every time we do a demo of Syndex Unbound, some libraries say they want it, some libraries say they don't. And that is the information that's coming from reader reviews. Taking a look here at My Father's Dragon, you'll see the reader reviews appears first. Then the other information you saw me display earlier. You might also like similar authors, etc., etc. That first section of reader reviews, you can turn that off if your library does not want to display that, and many libraries don't. It's not anything that you have to do. You don't have to moderate it. As you'll see, these are coming from LibraryThing. It's an integration with LibraryThing, so the patron would have to be registered with LibraryThing in order to create reviews. If your library doesn't find it useful, it can just be turned off. It's part of the admin tool that you can just hide it from the display. And then one last example before we leave our search screen is if the user is an adult patron, maybe not so much interested in Harry Potter, but instead interested in the Beirut Protocol. When your patron looks at this, again, we talked about the related details, the two pieces of information that show here. That details tab, again, coming from Syndex, I wanted you to see the difference here because in this case, our library doesn't have the first 3 books in that series. We have the Beirut Protocol, but the first 3 are grayed out. We don't have them. The user could always click to see the full series and see again that the grayed out ones are not available at the library. And for our demo environment, we do have reviews turned on, but we can see that you might also like, and perhaps we might be interested in political thrillers or the series by Brad Thor, the Brad Thor series by Scott Harvath. The integration of Syndex Unbound and rich content is just one of the many features that have been brought into Vega Discover recently. I know you're excited about what's coming next, and in order to talk about that, I've brought up III.com, and you can see Polaris as well as Sierra. Under the products, each of those has a link to our roadmaps. So whether you are part of our Polaris family or whether you're part of the Sierra family, we all are one big family at Innovative, and both of those products have links to roadmaps. The roadmaps include both of those, Sierra and Polaris, our core products, as well as now a link to Vega Discover. And in that link, you'll see what's coming in development, what's next, as well as coming soon, what's in planning, and what has been released in 2021. And as you look through what's displaying as far as coming in development or coming soon or in planning, you'll notice that each of the features has a little icon on the far right of silhouette of a person with a number. That number indicates how many people have commented that this particular feature is important to them. No one seems to be concerned about adding availability to material type settings. So if that's significant for you at your library, please encourage everyone at your library to come to this website, and you'll see an indication at the bottom asking you how important is this to you. If that's critical, just go ahead and click critical. It will ask you why and ask you to enter in an email address. You don't need to have an account, so anyone at the library can give their feedback and give their input for that particular feature. We know one feature in particular that libraries have been asking about in recent demos is that view reading history, and you'll see already there have been 8 comments on it, or 8 votes for it. How important is it for you to see this? And you will be able to then share this if that's something you want to share, or mark it as important, nice to have, or critical. So those are just some of the features that are coming next or already in the works to be coming next with Vega Discover. Back to you, Dean and Brielle.
All right. So when we were first invited to become development partners by Innovative, we learned that the name of the product was Vega, and we always kind of wondered how that name came to be. And then in the course of putting this presentation together, Dean and Maria clued me in. So I think the rest of the crowd would love to know.
Yeah, it was a fun experience. We had an internal staff naming project where everybody got to submit different ideas, and we actually had two people that came up with the idea for Vega, as it's the second brightest star in the sky, our next northern star, if you will, our guiding light through our path of discovery, and that's how Vega got its name. And if you'd like to learn more about Vega, if what you've seen today has excited you and you'd like to learn what it takes to be part of the Vega family, please let either Mike Carney or I know. We'd be glad to schedule a time to walk you through a personalized demo set up for your library. Thanks, everybody, and we hope to see you again at the Q&A session on Friday. Thanks, everybody.